Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Media Show on the Pod TV network. Just Nick Pellavy, I'll be your moderator today. Just want to let people know about some of the new shows that we have coming to the network. Immediately following the Media Show, we have a show on timeshares. And so I think that's pretty interesting. It's got a lot of popularity, people that have got scammed by timeshares. Also on Wednesday, we actually have a show following Modern Investments. We have the head of Modern Investments here. It's actually Dr. Patmos, who's doing medicine and science. So look for that on Wednesday, right after Modern Investments. And of course, we have Naked at Night, which is our evening show, which apparently the people stayed up late because of the Oscars. And we're going to bring in one of the heads of that also as well. So first of all, we're going to bring in the person who heads up Modern Investment. And also he does the Ukraine show as well. We'll bring in Sasha Starr. Sasha, and I've seen you on World Politics and kind of know your political thing, which we have a whole channel now devoted to politics. I don't know if you know that, Sasha, on the Roku TV. We have 4 channels. We have the live, which we're broadcast through. We have one on politics, devoted solely to politics, one on sports, and another one on travel. And of course, we'll also bring in Rick Rosner into the show as well. But yeah, we've added 4 channels on Roku now, Rick, in case you don't know. And they run 24/7. We switched our it takes a while. We switched our engineering to another group so that they could run the shows 24/7 on 4 channels on Roku. So the people that watch us on Roku, however, in spite of 4 channels on Roku, most people view us on their mobile phones, if you can imagine that. And I'm talking about like 55,000 people a month or more will watch on mobile phones, and then 33,000 on their desktops. And television is lagging at third, believe it or not. At least the data I'm getting. We're going to see if we can get better data. It's really hard to get the data in this.
So Naked at Night almost had a handsome naked model last night because Lance is an artist. And the idea is that while we yell at each other, he sketches or paints a nude model. And Lance called yesterday, said, you know, we've got a model available, but he's a guy. And I'm like, we have to start with a woman. And he said, well, sorry, we've only got this window of availability for the guy. So I'm like, yeah. And then the guy dropped out at the last minute because he had to fly back to Italy today. So we almost had a handsome Italian for your viewing pleasure. But we are working hard to get a nude model in there.
Is that going to be John Cena? I heard that he was interested.
Yeah, I mean, the Oscars had a nude person, and we couldn't get one, even though Lance's business is drawing naked people. So we're trying. It's just people don't. The art models he knows don't want to be in the middle of a political argument while they're naked.
Oh, really?
Hey, maybe we can have a new show. How about Naked Chess? So we'll get people that are doing chess like Sasha and his friends, but they have to do it while playing naked and everything.
That was a famous event in Los Angeles history. There was a famous artist who had a naked chess match in 1968, and I don't know, it was the most famous naked chess match in history.
Yeah. Well, the chess show actually gets a lot of viewers, especially on LinkedIn through the chess business group. But I noticed that the chess group like disappeared. I don't know where it went. There were 2 groups on LinkedIn, one chess business and the other chess. So it's like targeted, focused in that area. I'm shocked to see that many people watching the timeshare show. Like timeshares are a big thing apparently out there. Apparently a lot of people got scammed buying these timeshares.
Their parents, like there was a time probably when timeshare was a good deal, but that might have been in the 80s. And then with, you know, all the boomers have parents in their 80s or 90s or deceased, and they've inherited timeshares. And now it's like, you know, the annual dues are like you get 3 nights in some joint, but it costs you $750 a year, and it's not worth it because you can get a hotel. You know, so yeah, a lot of people inherited them.
Hey, Nick, there's a major media event that's about to happen. It's going to happen. It happens every year and everything. And I was wondering, what are we going to do? Because I know we did something for the football and the Super Bowl to cover it. But it'll start actually this weekend with the conference tournaments, but for a number of weeks going into the early part of April, everybody will be glued to their TV paying attention to the basketball tournament because they will have a vested interest. I'm not sure whether Miami will be in the tournament or not, or as you like to call it, the University of Miami, or I think y'all have the U is the nickname that y'all go by and everything. So I'm not sure if y'all will be there, but a lot of people, and this even comes to one of Sasha's favorite talks, which is wagering money, will be putting money on these basketball pools. Because I know that one of my jobs, they usually send us a letter asking if we want to join. It's like $5 or something like that to join, and there'll be a number of these office pools that will be going on, and some people may walk away with a few $1,000s, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars, depending on how many people are in the pool and what the payouts are. But definitely a lot of people over the next 2 or 3 weeks will be concentrated on basketball. And, right here in North Carolina, we're about to get, matter of fact, the day that online betting will be allowed. So sports betting starts today and everything. So what is y'all's take around sports betting in general, and particularly around the betting around the Final Four and going into the March Madness, as it's like to be called?
I like office pools for March Madness because there's no VIG, all the money that goes in goes out to the people who bet. You're not paying a bookie 10%. So, and you're betting on 68 games. So, there's so much randomness in that even if you don't know basketball, if you make some reasonable choices, you look up who's favored in every game, you can stay in it in a lot of years till close to the end.
Yeah, that's true. And some people bet for crazy reasons. I know some people that will be betting because they are liking their team. Maybe they went to the school like I did. I know I'll be rooting for Marquette and everything, but some people bet because of the colors. And I know that even you, Sasha, know that there are some people that'll be like, hey, I think that green will win. So they will bet for all the green teams.
Well, that gives you an advantage because the people making irrational choices are likely to lose. And you may not win, but if you go to sportsillustrated.com or some betting site and you pick the favorite in every matchup all the way down, that's likely to keep you in there. And for $10, and you've got 3 weekends of rooting for stuff, that's fairly inexpensive entertainment.
Yeah. What's your take on it, Sasha? Is there times that you actually do this kind of betting, or you only doing this betting on chess matches?
In fact, there is no betting on chess matches, unfortunately, for obvious reasons, because obviously chess is not as popular as other sports, whether it's basketball or European soccer and so on. Also, very often chess results are quite predictable. There are a lot of draws. For example, in classical chess, there is less draws in faster time controls or so on, but still favorites normally have a huge advantage over underdogs, and therefore the betting in chess. I bet once, Bet365 offered odds on one of this Magnus Carlsen speed tournaments, and the odds for him to win this tournament was 166. I thought that they got crazy. I immediately put $600 and won 1,000, which was a no-brainer to me. His advantage is so great. I mean, 133 probably would be the right bet, and I would think whether to do it or not. But 166 was definitely no-brainer. I love to bet on sports where the corruption is nearly impossible and very, very seldom happened, if any time. It's obvious number one sport is European soccer, where they play in front of 60, 80,000 people. There are home teams, there are all communities behind their team, and so on. And to imagine the fact that they will make some kind of agreement, okay, we will score in first half, and then you will score it in second half. So it's very unlikely. It's possible, but highly unlikely. Whereas in tennis, because it's individual sport, and players can bet against themselves, which is horrible scenario, but that happens. People who were involved in that, they admitted fixing matches and so on. So tennis is the last sport that I do betting, except Grand Prix, or so-called the Grand Slam tournaments, and perhaps the ones that is now in highly unlikely that there will be some kind of agreements to.
The trouble with sports betting, well, there's a bunch of problems, but one is the VIG, that the bookie takes 10% of what you bet. And so you have to not only be, so you have to be good plus 10%. Plus the bookie has a bunch of people doing research to figure out where the line should be. And so the bookie probably knows more than you. And so it's hard to beat the house.
It's hard to beat the house in anything.
But this is exactly what Bet365, they provide lines. They provide, they're taking 10%, that's right. But they're running the shows. They're responsible for payouts. They are doing work which is well worth 10%. How do you imagine somebody will do it for free? Highly unlikely.
Horse racing, racing takes 20% off the top.
And they're right. If people
are along those same lines and everything, because you just mentioned it, and I said it earlier on, I think it was the economic show that might have even been the news show, that they are coming here. They actually started today and everything. So as an investor, because you are also in the investment space, would you say that 365 Bets or FanDuel are good investments in terms of their company, or are they bad investments in terms of being a company that you might want to invest in? Because like I said, they started in North Carolina today. Today is the first day that they are officially here.
I found a lot of problems with that, because I used to bet on Bet365 for probably 10 years, if not more. And everything was fine. I was traveling, I could bet, and there were no limitations. Now, when they opened Bet365 Ontario, and then there came a lot of limitations. They have to always search where you are physically located. And for example, while I was in Aruba, I could not make any bets on Bet365 because I was outside of Ontario jurisdiction. So to me, this is a rather big problem. But listen, we have what we have.
Yeah, but Sasha, mainly when it comes to companies like that, it really depends on one word: management. If you have good management, those companies can be very successful because you always have an operating income of that. You have poor management, you can go down the toilet. Donald Trump proved that when he lost his casinos in Atlantic City. How can you lose casinos? It's a positive equity bet for the house. He lost the house, which to me was outrageous, because when you ever have it, but it's not just in gambling, it's almost all companies that really they tell you in MBA school, you got to look at the management. But of course, that's just words. It doesn't mean anything. When you start actually out working, you do realize that management makes a difference. In other words, who's the operator of 365 and FanDuel? If they have the correct operators and they're concerned about making sure dividends go to the stockholders and they treat their investors well, you're going to do real well, Mark. If they are thieves, you're toast. They'll take the money, they'll burn you out, and you won't have anything left, and the company will go bankrupt. Wait, that happened with Trump casinos. I'm sorry. How did you lose casinos?
Nick, you nailed it, because
I'm not kidding.
If a revenue of companies like Bet365, that would normally work its way up, and
right.
It's sort of measurable to a certain extent. The expenses of the management, they're not measurable, and they can quantify.
That's right.
4 or 5 times bigger. And although the company's revenue is progressing quite nicely, but their net profit may not progress at all, or maybe even go down. So therefore, you're at the mercy of the management of these companies. And if it's a good management, but each management is greedy by its nature. If they're not greedy, they should not be in that positions. So they're all greedy. They want to extend their salaries and perks and so on, and they will increase their expenses even if the profit goes fast. So I think it's a poor investment overall. It's the same thing like investing in timeshare. It's a very, very poor investment decision.
So Trump has very small companies that probably don't have room for business analysts. You know, if he wants an analysis done, he might turn to one of his idiot kids. If he'd looked at Atlantic City and had somebody do a business model, they would have told him, don't build your casinos here, build them in Vegas. That's where people go. It's a cheap plane. Also, Atlantic City doesn't attract many high rollers. Everybody just goes to Vegas. And so
Atlantic City mostly has bus people from New York area.
They bus poor people in from New York. And you're right, Rick. He should have hired them.
But it was a good deal, Nick. You know what? Yeah. They were giving a free ride from New York. It's 2.5 hours drive. So they give free ride, and they provide, say, $10 in play money. So you got free ride back and forth. You have $10 of play money. So you have a great time, actually. All you have to do is to buy a sandwich and a coffee during the day. So
also, the thing is, when it comes to good management, that's the reason I haven't even looked at that particular stock. It's how is management being compensated? Usually what you try to do is compensate the management based on profits of the corporation. In other words, you don't let the management just have a free reign on that. If the management has a free reign, then what they can do is like Sasha, they can spend money on, garbage stuff.
They're spending Aruba, right? Just spending money on going to Aruba because Sasha just came back from Aruba, so he's making money and using it as what do you call it? Your NVIDIA vacation, I believe is the term that Sasha started calling it. Is NVIDIA vacation?
Vacation. That's what
he took a NVIDIA vacation because he was bet on the right horse, and the horse keeps winning it, and so it really depends on the management and how they're being compensated and what the structure is. So you really have to take a look at what business model they're in. But all that said, when you have a 10% operating margin and it's all done on the internet, it should be a very profitable business for both of them. By the way, the better loses. The better is.
Hey, Nick, speaking of profits, and Rick kind of alluded to it earlier and everything, but there was an article that I think it came out earlier today that talked about a certain part of the population that is apparently running away from something that has been an important part of their lives. But apparently the teenagers of the world are largely unworried about their technology and social media use, but at least some say they want to cut back. So this is a new study that came back, and it was by the Pew Research Center. And many think that the benefits of smartphones outweigh the harms for their age group. But 38% of teens said they spend too much time on their smartphone, and about 25% said they spend too much time on social media, while 39% said they should cut back on social media use. So they even had a reality check where 69% of the teens have not limited their smartphone use and 60% have not limited their social media use. But apparently there's a group of teens that are going like, wait a minute, maybe we're spending too much time on these phones even when we're in school. So
good luck getting
good luck. Yeah. I don't see that happening. The trend's your friend. And the thing is, all the data that we get, like I said, the number one viewership in the Pod TV network is mobile phones. And then number two is desktop. The number three is the television set. Then the number four.
There's a good friend of yours that is trying to jump in this business, and I'm sure Sasha's going to have something to say about this, just like Rick. But the U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy has warned that social media poses a threat to kids' mental health. He called on policymakers, platforms, and parents to create safe limits, while the White House released plans, including an interagency task force on kids' online safety. So in January, large tech and social media company CEO were grilled, and we all saw that grilling during the Senate testimony on their respective platforms and the effort.
The answer to too much technology is more technology. You're
Yeah,
gonna,
I agree. I don't see this diminishing. I see it actually increasing. In other words, because of artificial intelligence, you're going to see people relying more and more on technology to get things done, more and more on computers, more and more on artificial intelligence to provide answers and guidance. And even today, and this one reason, if the government could introduce AI into their system, they'd have better decision making processes. Today, if you fly an airplane, a lot of cases they put it on automatic pilot, which is basically the computer lands your plane. And so what does the pilot do? Not very much. As a matter of fact, the computer does everything. They do your takeoff, they
Just a
do your
very
flight plan,
cool-
they do your landing. If you don't believe computers are landing your plane, go to any airport in the United States, I don't know about international, and watch. The plane will land on the same spot, and the next plane will come in and land on that same spot again. How do they do it? It's all
Nick,
computer-based.
it works most of the time. Just a
It
few hours
does.
ago in Asia, I forgot which airline, both pilot and co-pilot fell asleep.
Fell asleep. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
Right.
And the
I saw
plane
that.
went off the course, and
Well,
then
of
they
course.
woke up and they had to figure
Right.
out where they are and where
Right.
they're.
It
So
shocked me
They had
that,
to readjust.
you
I had
know,
to do
Sasha,
that
it
one
shocked
time
me
in
it
a
went
car.
off course because the
It
courses
is.
are usually pre-programmed in. Now the thing is, you could take the U.S. government deficit and debt and outline where the heck it's going. In other words, you could use AI to figure it out. Me not using AI, just looking
Hey, but
empirically,
Nick,
the
AI
United
got some
States
people.
goes down the
Nick, people
toilet
got
in about
the
12
AI
years.
got people in trouble and everything because apparently Princess Kate has apologized after a photo of her with her 3 children was shared and then removed from use by several major photo agencies because it appears to have been just what y'all
It was
want the
doctored.
picture to do. It appeared to have been manipulated. So some people
Yeah.
are wondering about her whereabouts, particularly after her scheduled abdominal surgery. But now I guess she took the picture and then she was like, maybe this is a nicer picture than what is the actual picture. So they manipulated it or maybe didn't manipulate it. And now folks are like, wait a minute, you manipulated that. So then she had to take it off and it became like a whole stir. In
Tell me, was she charged?
come on.
Yeah.
Was
I
she
don't know.
charged or not?
No, she wasn't charged. So
I
then
think she should. Well, because she manipulated her image. Why? She wanted to mislead people in they don't have election, but in the public opinion, what they're great people or so on. So they definitely wanted manipulate public opinion on at least her persona, and I think she should have been charged for that.
well,
Yeah,
that's
but
interesting you said that because apparently some German folks in one of their surveys found that photo editing is associated with lower self-perceived attractiveness and self-esteem. So the researchers concluded that people who often edited their pictures are creating an idealized virtual self-image, which enhances the discrepancy between the real and the ideal self. It's kind of like the folks that are on social media sites and you see them post pictures of themselves from like about 10 or 15 years ago when they were skinnier and less the ways that they are now. And I know that I've seen both women and guys do that. And you're sitting there going like, when you actually meet them, that does not look like you. You have gained an extra 50, in some cases, 75 pounds.
Yeah,
Uh,
on certain websites where people go to look at people with not much clothes on, there's like Darwinian competition to make your body look like physically impossible, like a 17-inch waist and 40-inch here and 38-inch down there, and yeah, it's and your money that you make off of OnlyFans depends on how convincingly you can make yourself look, impossible.
well, we're going to see that in the election. I think what you're going to see go on a going forward basis on this election between Trump and Biden, you're going to see a lot of how do you say artificial intelligence or built into everything that is projected to people through social media. And today, people tend to vote off of slogans rather than issues. And so, and this is something that Trump does understand. People buy slogans like "Make America Great Again," but they don't buy the issues. Okay, how are you going to do it? Nope, we're not going to get any of the details. Find the slogans. What's Biden's slogan? make America old again? I mean, you know, he doesn't have a slogan. That's not good.
Apparently, Trump's campaign has been caught already, like releasing AI photos of Trump surrounded by happy African American supporters.
Yeah, yeah, but you're going to see a lot more of that because they don't really have, like I said, there's no misrepresentation, deceit, dishonesty laws that are built into politics. If they were selling a security and they were registered by the Securities Exchange Commission, they would have laws for misrepresentation, dishonesty, deceit, etc. Transgender
speaking of misrepresentation, I want y'all to check this article
Let's see,
out
is that
because this might be some misrepresentation from a very popular children's author who apparently was accusing one of the Oscar people of being transgender. But let's check this out. Well, it might help if I put
by transgender journalist India.
Let's put out the full coverage.
J.K. Rowling has been reported to the police by transgender journalist India Willoughby for allegedly committing a hate crime. Rowling referred to Willoughby as a man on social media, which Willoughby said.
Okay.
Did you freeze on me?
Yep. It
looks like
froze.
it froze, Mark.
All right. So she called a trans woman a man. Which,
Yeah, she called it
Well,
trans
led
man.
to some of the worst abuse I've ever seen on social media. J.K. Rowling has definitely committed a crime. I'm legally a woman. She knows I'm a woman, and she called me a man. A good characteristic. And that is a breach of both the Equalities Act and the Gender Recognition Act, said she. She went on to say that the offense should be treated the same as that of a Black or Asian person being subjected to racial slurs. Rowling responded in a series of social media posts, saying that she had a strong case to sue Willoughby for defamation and harassment. She further asserted that due to the Forstater ruling, her views on gender identity can be protected in law as a philosophical belief.
so the voice there was
So what y'all thought on that? We can get off with it.
well, for one thing, the voice there was computer generated. The reporter wasn't real, was
Yeah.
AI, and possibly that entire story was written by AI.
Could have been.
Well, Mark, what about
Yeah,
the
that's-
story? Is this person a man or a woman or what? Talk to me.
Well, I think that they have been making the transition over. There are definitely folks that are doing that. I saw at least one or two at the film festival that I was just part of this weekend, where one of the volunteers was actually making that transition because they actually asked me which pronoun, as I was talking about a musical friend of mine, did the musical person go by, and I know that particular musical friend goes by they and them versus she, because when I knew her and was actually talking to her mother, she was a she, but I think she's transitioning over and everything. So we're talking about that particular person and all along those lines. So it's the whole kind of conversation around he, I think it's he, him, and she, her, or they and them, or something like that. But that's the whole.
Mark, explain to me. So there should be a new category, so-called transition people. So people who are not men yet, but they're already not women either. So they're transition people. So transition people should be treated as a special category of people, and it could be transition from man to woman and transition from woman to man. Okay, that's what we should discuss.
I mean, who cares what people's genital configuration is? What business is it of mine? And also, like, a lot of trans people don't get the bottom surgery. More than 99% of trans people don't get the bottom surgery because it is brutal. And, you know, because it's such a horrible, invasive, just operation, turning an innie to an outie or vice versa, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the results because, like, you have to, if you're going male to female, you have to use tools to keep the canal open, maybe for the rest of your life. It seems, you know, I think it's better to go the Caitlyn Jenner way, which is, you know, maybe get top surgery, which is easy surgery, and leave the bottom alone.
Yeah, but I think if somebody's dating somebody, you do have the right to know whether or not they're trans or not. And so the thing is, I don't see anything that J.K. Rowling did was inappropriate. If this person's trans, then and she goes, well, in my opinion, she's a man because she was born a man and she transitioned over to woman. I don't think she said anything wrong.
Well,
Really.
Rowling famously believes that trans people are not the gender that they claim to be.
Well, they may not be. In other words, genetically, that person may be a man, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, but
In other words,
what skin
because
is
you-
it
just
off
because
my
you
butt
change-
if somebody feels that they were born the wrong gender and wants
I
to?
don't care. I don't care what they feel. It doesn't matter. It's what science says. I mean, when they go into your DNA and you're a man, you're a bloody man. Too bad if you don't like it. Life's tough. Then you
Well,
die.
science also
So-
says that, and just reality says that like close to 1% of people are intersex, they're both male and female. And so somebody has to make the call. And ideally
Yeah,
it's that person.
Yeah.
So
Practically, I would ignore that question entirely, except only one thing: if people gravitate from, let's see, a male to female, and they become eligible to play in women's sports, such as basketball or volleyball, and also they may have advantage over natural female.
I agree. I wouldn't allow them. I would not allow them to do it.
I would
they're evolving standards, because that's the most problematic area.
Yeah.
And some of the standards include not having male levels of testosterone for a year, or not can't compete if you became a male if you.
So we're thinking like maybe 3 leagues will be needed, because there was a big push to get the WNBA. So if I'm hearing both you and Sasha correct, Nick, there would be the NBA, the WNBA, and maybe the WTNBA or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And they could play in their own league. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. In other words, if they play in their own league, I really do have a problem with a man say, "Hey, I identify as a woman. I'm going to play in women's sports." Nope, wouldn't allow it. And if they don't like it, I have one word: tough. Deal with it. It's life.
Well, I mean, if somebody went on puberty blockers, somebody born a guy who feels they're a woman, they go on puberty blockers before they move deeply, when they're young enough, before they get the full male musculature, then people are looking at rules like that.
Now, Sasha, one of the biggest stereotypes, and I'm
Just
not
do
saying
the
that it was
DNA
a
testing.
true stereotype because I wasn't there living there, but you were and everything. But there used to be this whole conversation back in the 70s, and I would even argue the 80s and definitely in the 60s, that a number of women that were playing for the Russian team might not have actually been women. They might have been men, and that was definitely something that was out there in the social media circles and everything. But you were in that military, so just wondering your thoughts about that and how that was put out there, because I do know.
Yes, there were famous sisters, Tamara and Irene, if I remember correctly, Press. One of them were really humongous. She was just as big as a tractor. I mean, she was incredible in track and field. She was like cleaning all the gold medals. And Irene was pretty good at sprint run and a few other disciplines. But even more apparently interesting case of East Germany swimming team, where in Olympiads they would clean up all medals, gold, bronze, silver, it doesn't matter. They would just clean up all the medals, and that phenomenon, well, people knew what was going
They
on.
were pumped full of steroids for decades. Yeah,
Yeah.
Russia has gone crazy with the steroids. And the deal is, if you fill a woman with testosterone, her genital configuration will change, and she'll become close to, her clitoris will become like 1.5, 2 inches long, like a little, but some people naturally, I've known guys who naturally have super high levels of testosterone, and they're like bodybuilders, even though they don't exercise. And I had a girlfriend in college who was also a bouncer in the bar I worked at, who had high levels of test. She was a better bouncer than I was. She could take people down, but it made her a little crazy. She was an angry person, which was fun in the bedroom but not like in day-to-day stuff.
You still have to live. Well, the thing is, I think it's an interesting problem that we're not going to get away from in the next 5 or 10 years from now. I just don't see that changing very much. Let's see, somebody
an issue in politics, because you have a candidate here in North Carolina that has made some very interesting remarks. The current candidate for governor, who is our lieutenant governor, has said some things that are across the board kind of interesting, because he denies the Holocaust, but he also said that transgender and even other members of the LGBT community are filth, and that they are the worst things out there. I think he's called some of the feminists neo-feminists or neo-Nazis, and a lot of other feminazis. I think that's the term that he uses.
Yeah, your Guy Robinson, the Republican candidate for governor, he believes. I mean, he believes the moon landing was fake. He believes that certain people are actually lizards wearing human skin. Right. He's a mess, that guy.
He sounds like a lunatic, but he also did get a lot of votes. He won the primary.
He won the primary, and depending on how Trump does, because there is this popular thing that is out there called the coattail. So I know that Sasha and others, including myself, are hoping that Trump doesn't win. But should he win, there is a thing called the coattails, and the coattails can drag in some crazy people to stand in the office, whether that's Marjorie Taylor Greene, or drag some new crazy people into new offices. So it literally could be a coattail to get him from lieutenant governor to governor. I'm not saying that will.
Historically, he's had a negative coattail. That people who run under his imprimatur don't do well, unless they were, the prohibitive favorite. And yeah, the 62% did not like Trump. Trump's support since he first announced for president in 2015 has been extremely steady at about 40% of the population support him, regardless of what he does that's good or not good. It only varies a couple percent. And so he lost the popular vote in 2016 by nearly 3 million, 2020 by 7 million. But he could lose the popular vote as he did in 2016 and still win the electoral college. That just depends on about 6 swing states.
Yeah.
Yep. And those swing states are going to be very important. So it'll be
he will not get more. He absolutely will not get more votes than Biden. But whether Biden gets enough votes to win the electoral vote is the deal.
I believe that if Democrats will play their cards smart, the one issue, which is abortion, will kill Trump and the Republican Party, and quite in a gruesome way. So all they have to do is to plan an attack and have one word abortion repeated 90 times every day on all media and all channels, and just awash, and they have funds to do that. So just say one word. Don't go into what the great President Joe Biden is and what a criminal Trump is. You don't need that. Just say abortion. Women, what you have to have your rights. Abortion, full stop, period. And that derails Trump's electoral machine.
Well, they don't use the term abortion. They use women's reproductive rights. The liberals use abortion because abortion sounds bad. So the thing is, liberals don't want to use abortion. They want to use women's reproductive rights, because I've listened to them a lot here. You don't want to use the word abortion. You want to say women's reproductive rights. Okay. So anytime I hear somebody say women's reproductive rights on television, I know they're liberals and they're smart because they're trying to stay away from the word abortion, because abortion
has a bunch more money to spend on ads than the Democrats have more money, because Trump's legal problems cost them a lot of money, also cost them donors. So there will be a lot more, paid for messaging by the Democrats this election cycle, though, we'll get more propaganda from the Republicans in that, Putin did well in 2016 with propaganda. It doesn't cost much to drive propaganda out of Russia, only about $30 million a year. So, Putin will, this election is like, plus with AI, like we've been talking about, we will see more BS flying around than in any previous election in the next 8 months. Like, and things like people get phone calls or text messages saying, well, just vote via computer or vote on this day. And people who don't pay attention may do that and find out that they don't get to vote at all because they got lied to about how to vote.
The latest one just came down on LinkedIn. They made an accusation, unsubstantiated by any facts whatsoever, that Joe Biden was doing drugs when he was doing his campaign speech. Okay. And I'm sitting there going like, wait a minute, you can just throw out an accusation that has no basis in law or fact as if it was the truth. And then you should see all the people who believe it. It doesn't matter what you say, they believe it. And I think you're going to see a lot of social media lies that are out there. In other words, supporters of Trump and Biden creating their own fictional reality and setting it out on the internet.
A congressman, according to Lance, the guy I argue with on my show, Naked at Night, says that a Republican congressman said that Biden was on drugs. The drugs only last 90 minutes. And so they tried to talk to him a lot before he gave the speech, so the drugs would run out before the speech was over, which is just crazy nonsense. I saw a lie. I saw a lie yesterday that Biden was banging the babysitter that when his wife was killed in a traffic accident, and that babysitter married. Like, I guess that's out there. It's been debunked 50 ways till Sunday, but people still throw it out there.
Right. Yeah. And this is what I think you're going to see in this upcoming election, Rick. You're going to see a lot of fabrication. There was from what I understand, that the lady who did the rebuttal made up this story of sex trafficking that was just a complete fabrication, and then said it on national TV. Now, the reason I say maybe is because I haven't really fact checked it.
No, the deal. Somebody did fact check it, and it's a real story. It's a real person, but it didn't happen under Biden. It happened like more than 15 years ago. It didn't happen in America. The woman never made it to America. She was held as a sex slave in Mexico for several years, and the woman's pissed off. They found the real woman, and she said, well, this is bullshit, that you can't use my story when you completely misrepresent.
Okay. And this what, like I said, this what gets me about politics and politicians in general. Misrepresentation, deceit, dishonesty, okay, is illegal if they were selling a security. In other words, anybody who said all that stuff would be permanently disbarred from selling stocks in the United States of America, especially original issue. And I'm going like, you got to be, and if you're a broker, you're just you're just a registered broker, and you said all the stuff that she said, she would be out the door, because they'd say, look, the SEC would pull her in and crucify her for misrepresentation, deceit, dishonesty. Instead, what happens? She'll go back to Congress, and life will be continued good for her again.
This show is on the media, and
it's on the media.
It's a lot of times it's lazy media that they don't hold people to account for BS.
Purportedly, you're exercising your First Amendment rights, but I'm just telling you, the First Amendment gets thrown out the door if you have a professional license. You cannot do what she just did, but she did it. And why is it that the politicians don't have the same level of scrutiny as a stockbroker does?
I don't know. I like these shows like Meet the Press. Are they afraid that nobody will come on their show if they ask them hard questions? George Stephanopoulos on his Sunday show held Nancy Mace to account asking her how she could support somebody found liable for rape, and like he wouldn't let her off the hook because
Right.
and she said, well, you're rape shaming me. I was raped when I was 16, and by asking me how I can support a rapist, you're shaming me about my rape, which is just crazy BS.
It has nothing to do with it.
And he
Right.
wouldn't let up, which was a nice moment of somebody being held to account. I get mad, like there's a case, somebody gets found guilty of murder and reporters still refer to him as the alleged murderer. It's no, you proven. You can drop the alleged. You're just too chicken that you're that to get rid of
Yeah.
it.
Well, the other thing, a post on LinkedIn, they put Joe Biden, all the lies he did, and they fact checked it. And I'm sure he's been in the Senate, Congress for 40 years. I'm sure that
47 years, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he's made misrepresentations. As a matter of fact, he misrepresented in his State of the Union address, but you have to catch it, how he did it, which is, like I said, the deficit was reduced. Yeah, because it was super high, and now it still exists. See, that's the misrepresentation. It's not like he eliminated the deficit. It just was reduced from a all-time high to COVID to another high. So he misrepresented like, hey, we're on the path to fiscal responsibility. We're not. Okay, so he's been around for 47 years, and sure, he made some misrepresentation. They posted on Facebook. I said, great. Post Donald Trump. In other words, show them in parametera equal to each other. Oh, no, we can't do that. Of course you can, because they're the ones that run against.
The Washington
It's just
Post,
intellectually dishonest. That's
the Washington Post counted Trump's public lies. And in his last year in office, he averaged 30 lies or misrepresentations a day.
right.
And at his rallies, he just says whatever he wants. There's no. So
as a private citizen and a politician, he can probably do that. If he was licensed to sell securities, he would be booted out the door. He
just got found liable for $450 million for basically lying about his real estate holdings.
He misrepresented the values of his real estate holdings. But like I said, at least my experience working with real estate and developers for years and decades, they all do that. I mean, it's not, and part of the reason they do that is they want to sell the real estate at the highest prices. And he did have a disclaimer in that said, hey, do your own research. This is just what I think it's worth.
Nick, if you're selling a structural unit, let's see, 40 townhouses. Okay, so you want to sell it. And in your documents, you say that there are 120 townhouses. In fact, there are only 40.
Sure.
You say 120. Is that still misrepresentation or it's an outright lie?
It's misrepresentation.
No.
I mean, the thing is, everything
You
I
said
saw.
if there are only 40 units, and you said in your documents that this is 120 unit, it's an outright lie. It's a criminal act, and for that you go to jail in the next 7 hours.
Trump would lie about how many stories tall his buildings were.
He like a major thing about, and this is why Alan Wexelberg, he should know better.
Well, they don't call it lies. Legally, it's what they call prior inconsistent statements, Sasha.
Nick,
so no one ever lies in court.
The jail term is still the same. For Alan doesn't care how you call it. He served 4 months in Rikers Island. And now there is another 6 months or more is upon him. And this is why now Trump is reluctant to bring him as a witness, because he's completely compromised as a witness, unlike Michael Cohen. You pay attention.
Yeah, but the attorneys on the other side with Michael Cohen will say, wait a minute, he's a convicted liar.
It doesn't
so why would we believe him now?
He was convicted because of his lying on behalf of Donald Trump. So this is the same thing. Here is a head of the mafia, and there are some fighters on the street. So you put fighters in jail, but the mafia, you don't touch him. You go, well, he's the head of the mafia. Trump is the head of the mafia. And it's more even dangerous because he's supported by Moscow. So he is an arch enemy of American people, except MAGA idiots. Okay.
Okay, let me ask you this, Sasha. How many publicly traded companies does Donald Trump run?
Probably one.
None.
No.
Zero. He could
has
never.
that.
All his companies are private companies.
No,
Because Sasha-
his new social
He
media
would be-
company, Truly Social, it's a public company. And
Does he
Trump,
run that? Does he run Truly Social?
he's a major
He-
shareholder.
he's
He's just a shareholder. Okay, Trump can't. I'm not sure if Trump.
Well,
can
he's
run
obviously
a public
insider.
company.
He's too dumb to run the company, any company, public or
Right.
private or anything. He has already proven it through all his life.
Well,
He lost
also,
all the money in the
also,
world that he could.
the reason he runs private, not public companies. If he ran a public company, he would be under the jurisdiction of the Security Exchange Commission. And the stuff that he says and he does, he can't get away with. The SEC would crucify him. So he doesn't run public companies. He runs private companies. The SEC has no jurisdiction, so he gets away with all the garbage.
I
He
don't
gets
With
away with.
his one public company, Truth Social, he's playing games with. He's trying to dilute the other people. He's issuing himself.
More
He's
stock.
8 times as much stock.
Yeah.
But
By the way,
other-
that is an unfortunate common play with publicly and privately traded companies, is that you dilute your existing shareholders. I mean, and if there's no shareholders agreement that prevents dilution, anti-dilution clauses, what gets me is, Rick, don't they have anti-dilution clauses in their operating agreements? If they don't, then
don't
yeah,
know.
you can do it.
But there's
And
a
you
good
get
movie about this, The Social Network, about the early days of Facebook.
Yeah.
There's a big stock dilution play where
Yeah, right.
Zuckerberg.
Right, but any good corporate attorney knows you draft anti-dilution clauses in shareholder agreements.
Yeah, but
So
not
why didn't
everybody's
they
a
do
good attorney.
Well, then they need to find one and hire one. That got me to like the ACC, and we stole a couple of your Pac-12 schools. Stanford and Berkeley are coming over to the ACC. Okay, and Florida State wants to leave because they have this claim of right. And I thought, and Florida State got screwed because they didn't get to play in the national championship. I said, well, where are your good attorneys? If you had good attorneys, you should have put a clause in saying, if we have an undefeated ACC champion and there's other teams that have one loss, we get to play.
Well,
So
I mean,
it was a
Stanford,
problem. Do that.
they'll be. It's ACC stands for Atlantic Coast Conference, and Stanford and Berkeley are only 2,500 miles away from the Atlantic, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, but the reason they're involved is that they are upper echelon schools. If you look at the top 100 school, if you look at the top power conferences, which are best academic, the ACC beats everybody. They're the top academic. And so Stanford and Berkeley fit well in with the ACC, where the SEC, which is all these Southern land grant schools, academically, they suck. And then if you go to the Big 12, they're okay, but basically they're not the ACC. So Stanford and Berkeley were naturals to come over to the ACC because of academics. In other words,
They should
playing
change the
with
name of the conference to the Coastal. I
yeah,
don't know.
cool. Yeah,
Either-
just change the name rather than ACC. It's kind of a weird thing that they're doing. But again, I think with Trump, one thing, and no one ever brings it up. Why didn't Trump ever take a company public? Why
He did.
Why
Well,
doesn't
Trump
he run it?
Casinos was a publicly traded company, and people lost, if they hung on till the end, they lost basically 100% of their money.
was he running that public company? Do you
Well,
think?
don't you read the books by?
I don't know, but I mean, he's the one who decided to put these super high-end casinos in Atlantic City, a dying city.
Yeah.
Don't you read books by David Johnson, who was regular on our
Let me
network?
see David Johnson's book. Yeah, I got one. right
David
here.
Johnson has an episode how Trump ran casinos, and he talks about the one I think Japanese high roller who came to play No, not the previous one, not this one. The previous.
Oh, really?
One. No,
Okay,
make
Trump
not
ones.
Trump. I'll show you to next time.
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Maybe you
I got
have
one.
it anyway. Yeah,
Working
I
with Donald Trump. David
This
K.
one-
Johnson. How about this one? The big cheat.
yeah. This one is good too. But I
Oh,
think
that's about him, how he cheats at golf. Is that the one by
No, he
Rick
cheats at
Riley?
golf.
Or
He doesn't cheat at golf. He cheats at everything.
So
Yeah,
there
it's-
was a high roller from Japan, and he made a lot of money, and he was about to fly to back to Japan or somewhere else. Something happened, of course, similar to what's happening in the movie Casino, and he had to stay. Now, Trump, he did not know nothing about that game. And his advisor explained to him where the player may have some advantage or so on. Trump couldn't understand any of that. He's just too damn by nature, it's the fault of his parents. It's not Trump's fault necessarily. His parents' fault, perhaps. But it doesn't change anything. He just didn't know nothing about casino, about the games, how they're being played, when the player's
Right.
advantages, and so on. So, casino being cash positive business. It's not that it has receivables and some
Yeah.
people went out of business. It couldn't come back. Some people pay you 30 cents on a dollar. So it's a cash positive people
Right.
books, right? They have to pay. People brought a coins machine. They have to pay right away. What else? They're buying restaurant food. They pay right away by credit card or otherwise. So it's a cash positive business. And I don't remember any casino except Trump going out of business. It's simply impossible because you collect money before you spend. So you can cheat some of your suppliers. You can pay not 5 days later, but 50 days later, or never, like in Trump's case might be as a truth. So he's famous for not paying his bills, cheating on people, including his lawyers. And so therefore, it's no way that the 6 casinos, all Trump's casinos, not 7, not 9
Sasha,
casinos.
not just cheating on the business people, but remember, he's also cheating on how many wives and girlfriends? I think he's up to like 20, maybe 100.
Well, that's
I think he opened up 2 casinos like really close to each other, so he was competing with himself. Which,
yeah, I think also you're right. He should have invested in Las Vegas, and he might have actually been successful as opposed to Atlantic City, where it was a complete flop.
such
But
idiot that he would
Yeah, I thought he was. I thought Steve Wynn hated him, and isn't Steve Wynn a major investor in
yeah,
Vegas?
Steve Wynn's a better manager, a better operator, and we're going to have to manage our way out of this because we got the timeshare show coming up. So we thank everybody for watching the media show on the Pod TV network. Timeshares are coming up next. So if you have a timeshare or want to listen to people getting screwed on their timeshare, stay tuned to the Pod TV network, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.